Panasonic took their time, but the GH6 is here, and it really emphasizes how seriously they take the GH series by doing a complete overhaul from the previous model. Okay, it's been 5 years. It would be shocking if this was just an upgrade. Plus, it steals the title of best budget camera for anamorphic filmmaking. Other folks will do a deeper review than me, so I'm going to focus on what I found are pretty interesting bits in a production setting, as well as anamorphic filmmaking. I already used the camera to record a short film, and it was great to experience some of the improvements on the field besides just on paper. In this built from the ground up camera, we have a brand new Micro Four Thirds sensor and image processor. These give us much faster readout speeds, which in turn gives us some cool stuff that I'll talk about later. The cool thing I'm going to talk about right now is the dynamic range boost function. When enabled, the camera effectively combines two simultaneous exposures, one at a lower ISO and one at a higher ISO, for improved dynamic range. Panasonic claims this gives the improvement of a full stop to the camera's regular dynamic range. This is not a dual native ISO thing. It's a totally different feature that combines on the fly the most valuable parts of both images into a single resulting frame. So you have clean shadows and great highlight information all at once. The lowest ISO for this setting and vlog is 2000, which reminds me of the age-old A7S II or A7S and Sony's S-Log2, and using ND filters even when filming in the dark. We obviously used the DR boost for the short film and had an ND3 rigged up for almost all the shots. I was curious about the actual effects of this setting, so I recorded this unscientific test using the GH5 II at ISO 2000, the GH6 at ISO 2000 with DR boost off, then the same thing with DR boost on, and last, compared a matched frame using the S1H at ISO 2000. On the outside, the GH6 shows a strong connection to Panasonic's flagship, the S1H. It is definitely a camera oriented towards video with not one, but two big record buttons, plus the shutter, which works as the third record button. Considering its feature set, I'll be surprised if this camera doesn't join the Netflix approved ranks. We have a full-sized HDMI out, a USB-C port that can power the camera while still in use, a microphone jack, headphones out, and finally, a way to synchronize timecode with an external source through the flash sync port and the provided accessory cable. The rear screen is the same as the S1H, and so are the mechanics, so no more bumping into HDMI cables. On the list of smaller upgrades, we can now watch playback simultaneously through HDMI out and in the camera's LCD or viewfinder. That has always been on my list of pet peeves when working with Panasonic cameras on set, so I am glad it's fixed. The camera takes the same batteries as the GH5 II and S5, which is an overhauled BLF19, while still being compatible with the regular BLF19. This is great because if you're upgrading, you can keep using the same batteries as before, with some reservations regarding recording modes. In terms of storage, the GH6 takes two cards, an SD card and a CF Express B card, which is key in the next thing we'll talk about, the new mind-blowing recording modes, frame rates, and resolutions. First of all, we can record ProRes internally. This requires using the CF Express card and one of the new batteries. It is also restricted to 5.7K resolution at 17:9 aspect ratio. The data rates range from 1.9 to 1 gigabit per second, depending on HQ and 30 or 24 frames per second. When we switch back to the not ProRes quality, the list of recording options is long, with 10 full pages of options. Among the highlights, we have new data rates ranging from 800 and 600 megabits for all eye recording to 300 megabits and the usual 200 and 150 we had before. There's a 5.7K 17:9 60 FPS 10-bit mode, a cropped in 4:3 anamorphic mode at 4.4K resolution up to 60 frames per second and 10-bit as well. If we turn off DR boost, we can even do Cinema 4K 120 frames per second with 10-bit color. Stepping down to HD resolution, which ain't bad to be honest, we can record up to 240 frames per second with an 800 megabits data rate. When it comes to color, we finally achieved full V-Log, lifted from Panasonic's VariCam, instead of the traditional V-Log L present in the GH series. This means intercutting GH6 and S series footage will get even easier moving forward. The new camera also supports .cube files for importing your own LUTs, besides the previous VLT format. Lots and lots of versatility to make choices here for more professional and post-production oriented workflows. The other bit I observed in this direction is the Cine style file setting, where you can assign the camera an index letter, roll numbers, and the file names will follow the standard of camera label, roll number, clip number, _date, _unique camera ID. All of these hardcore recording modes, fast sensor readouts, and processing power require cooling down. And the camera is equipped with a fan. You're also given control over the fan operation. I'd say this thing is loud when it turns on, but you get unlimited recording time. The camera is still weather sealed, and the temperature thresholds for the fan being activated are higher than a mild fever. In anamorphic land, we still have the best anamorphic design stabilization, the same squeeze factors seen in previous releases, we're missing a 1.6 times here, and the glorious OpenGate 4:3 recording modes. The top of the list of recording modes is reserved for a full sensor 5.8K 4:3 mode at 30 and 24 frames per second. I'm working on a second little short that uses this mode with the Sirui Mars anamorphic lenses for an almost 16:9 delivery, so stay tuned to see more about that. I misplaced my PL adapter, so I couldn't test this using actual Cine anamorphics yet, but I'm sure I'll have the chance real soon. Having this much resolution gives you plenty of room for reframing and rescaling. I'm expecting super crisp results when delivering to 4K. Plus, now you can do custom aspect ratio frame markers, which is something I always wished for, and you can also reposition them on the screen according to your needs, giving you much more freedom to preview your final framing in camera. Another one of my favorite new features, and this one I missed from my Sony times, is I can now punch in and check for focus while recording. This is super useful when working at, well, super fast apertures, or making sure you have focus when working with anamorphics. And it happens all the time. So even though my last published video crowned the GH5 as the best budget camera for anamorphic filmmaking, the GH6 steals the prize and runs away with it. Speaking of budget, with all the upgrades, the GH6 will sell for $2,200 US, which is an increase from the current GH5 or even the GH5 II right now. But it's the same price as the GH5S when it was launched. It is a natural consequence of incorporating more high-end features for video and film professionals. So how do you feel about the new camera? I really enjoyed exploring and honing in the most cinematic settings, defining my custom buttons and making this tool an extension of my hands and eyes. Are you upgrading soon? Or do you feel the price doesn't fit the on a budget idea anymore? I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. I hope you learned something cool here today. Now I'm off to make more short films. Chit Verhedings, out.